of November 26th. It is approximately 6:37. Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Mayor Cordova?
Here.
Councilmember Peralta?
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Here.
Councilmember Abeyta?
Here.
Youth Councilmember Landgraf?
Here.
We do have a quorum. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we will go to item 4, approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda as presented?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to item A, and if we could suspend the rules until they finish with their Airport Advisory Board meeting. I believe that they're still in the meeting, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
And if we could suspend those rules there. Yeah, those are that's my agenda packet there. Thank you. And we'll get back to that item there. So at this time, we will go to the Citizens Forum. Those that would like to speak under Citizens Forum. Mr. Northrup, welcome. I would just like to let you know that I'm going to change the way we do the Citizens Forum. You're welcome to give constructive criticism, but when it resorts to name calling, I will cut you off, sir.
Well, often constructive criticism is name calling.
Not in this chambers.
Does that mean that councilmen will no longer be calling me names, calling me a liar, and so forth? Councilman Abeyta or anyone else?
Proper decorum will be held by everyone in this chambers. You may proceed.
Well, let's see how far we can get. Mayor Cordova was very upset that the Taos News has a above-the-fold headline in its November 21st edition, questioning the appropriateness of the town spending $22,000 a year advertising on DMC broadcast stations. He even suggested that the drunk driving town cop going 114 miles an hour would have been a better headline. The mayor is not happy controlling and manipulating, hiding and lying on the news on his 4 stations. He wants absolute control of the Taos News, now even suggesting that the pages of legal announcements could just as well be on the radio as opposed to the newspaper. That would be compelling radio. I don't believe the town should support DMC broadcasting because DMC is a racist corporation. Further, the radio station is a public relations tool of the mayor, reflecting the worst in government. Just an hour ago, the county commission decided to end negotiations with the town over the E911 dispatch. A major concern of the commissioners was the one-sided reporting by DMC, especially disc jockey Nancy Stapp, and the constant string of lies and misinformation uttered by Mayor Cordova and council members Rudy Abeyta and Andrew Gonzalez on her show. Neither Rudy Abeyta or any of you have the right to attack my integrity at these council meetings. The recently shortened Citizens Forum time is set up for citizens to address our public servant lawmakers, not a time to be attacked by you. After making my presentations, I ask if you have any questions of me. You rarely do. However, once I step away and return to my seat, you feel free to hurl invectives, yet not allow me to respond. On November 12th, for instance, Rudy bullied me in my presentation. While it might have been wrong to confront Rudy after ceding the microphone, I have a right as a human being to defend myself from cheap shots. Rudy often refers to his 20-plus years in the Air Force. I suspect his time in the military was much the same as a sexist, homophobic, bullying, lying, selfish,
Mr. Northrup, we're going to stop you right there. We're going to stop you right there. That's it. Anyone else like to speak under the
Do you have any
Citizens Forum?
questions?
Anyone else? Anyone else under the citizens forum? Seeing none, we will close the citizens forum and move back up to item 5A. And I'll go to the podium for this. I would also like to welcome the chair of our Airport Advisory Board, Mr. Don Francisco Trujillo. And if he can join me here at the podium, I'd be happy and honored if he would. This time it's my pleasure as mayor of the town of Taos, also along with, you may stand up to this side. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It's my honor to give credit where credit is due for a gentleman that has served this community in many, many capacities, not only as a businessman, but is Don? Okay. Shall we wait? Okay. Got it. We're waiting for two people. I knew there was going to be two. Well, but first I'll begin with one individual that I know personally has served this community in many capacities, not only as a businessman, successful businessman, but in our Airport Advisory Board and our Lodgers Tax Board. And I'd like to call Mr. Ken Blair up to the podium so we can give him a formal recognition and of appreciation for your service on the Airport Advisory Board. 35 years. Mr. Blair, I know that you started on the airport advisory. I think that you had a mission to get that airport expansion going, right?
Pretty much.
Well, I'd like to read this plaque to you, and it reads as follows. The Taos Regional Airport Advisory Board. This is going to be given from your chair, but it's supported by the town of Taos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd also like to mention that we have other members of the Airport Advisory Board with us. We have Ms. Lindsay Webb with us and Mr. Mark Fratrick, who was also formerly the airport manager for the town of Taos and is currently the administrator for Taos, the village of Taos Ski Valley. And they both sit on the board as well, along with us. And so we appreciate Mr. Blair, and in just a few minutes we'll honor Mr. Hilliard as well for their many years of service to this community, not only in their capacity on the airport board, but all of the various boards that they have served on for the town of Taos, Taos County, and the state of New Mexico throughout their tenure. And so the Taos Regional Airport Advisory Board, on behalf of the citizens of Taos and the town of Taos governing body, we, the Taos Regional Airport Advisory Board, honor with distinction Ken Blair. Your selfless dedication as a Taos Regional Airport Advisory Board member for the town of Taos and the aviation community has been instrumental to ensure a safe venue for air travel in northern New Mexico. It is with utmost appreciation that we salute you today, November 26, 2013. Thank you. Mr. Blair.
Thank you. Thank you for your long years of service. And go ahead and stay up here.
Let me just say a few things, Mayor. Thank you for the plaque, of course. This is only possible because of the other members of the Airport Commission over the years. It's been a long, hard road, and thanks to people like John and Mark, I mean, it's come to fruition, or is coming to fruition. And so, again, thank you, but thank those people. And I would like to also thank the town for its dedication to follow through and keep persevering till we get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to recognize Louise Blair also, because, you know, behind every great man is a great woman. And While Mr. Blair is dedicating so much time to civil and community activities, Louise is at home running the business, right?
At this time, I'd also like to call up a pillar of the Airport Advisory Board as well that served in many capacities there and kept us on our toes, making sure that we followed, persevered, as Ken Blair said, for the negotiations with the FAA and the Pueblos. So, John Hilliard, can you come up so that the chairman can present you this plaque?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are you sure you resigned? Ladies and gentlemen, these two gentlemen are going to be greatly missed because I will tell you their historical knowledge with not just the airport, but so many different facets of our community are just instrumental. And we'll still be calling them consistently to ask for their advice. The Taos Regional Airport Advisory Board, on behalf of the citizens of Taos and the Town of Taos governing body, we, the Taos Regional Airport Advisory Board, honor with distinction John Hilliard. Your selfless dedication as a Taos Regional Airport Advisory Board member for the Town of Taos and the aviation community has been instrumental to ensure a safe venue for air travel in northern New Mexico. It is with utmost appreciation that we salute you today, November 26, 2013. Thank you. And all 5 of the board members have signed this, myself as chair, Mr. Tim Cottom as the vice chair, Clyde M. Romero Jr. as a member, Mr. Mark Fratrick as a member, and Ms. Lindsay Webb as a member. Thank you, John.
Once again, on behalf of the mayor and council, Mr. Blair and Mr. Hilliard, a sincere thank you for your years of service and everything that you did for the Airport Advisory Board during your tenure there. We really appreciate that. And all the members of the Airport Advisory Board, Don Francisco, the chair, and all the members, just thank you all for your service. Thank you for volunteering. This clearly is what makes things work in government, is your time and efforts and expertise guiding us through the right processes. So, and Mark Patrick, also during your tenure of the Town of Taos, thank you for all your hard work. So, thank you, and especially all the employees and staff of the Airport Advisory Board at the airport. But thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Members of the council, we do have Mr. Blair here and Mrs. Blair, and I would like to see if we can move up item 9A at this time. Motion and a second.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, we will go to item 9A, Sagebrush Inn and Los Vaqueros liquor license transfer. Consideration and possible approval of transfer of ownership of liquor license 286 to Sagebrush Inn and Los Vaqueros located at 1508 Paseo del Pueblo Sur. Madam Clerk, we see the licensee, the current licensee in the audience. I know all the processes have been followed. It is a public hearing. Do you have anything to add on this?
No, Mayor, that's it.
Okay.
All the publication requirements were complied with. It's a location that already has a liquor license, so we didn't need the zoning clearance.
Okay. At this time, this is a public hearing, so I will open this up for public comment. Seeing no public comment, we will close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Oh, this is a public hearing, so we have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Peralta?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Beta?
Yes.
By the vote of 3 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the license is granted, the approval. Thank you all. On behalf of the mayor and council, I want to say also, I know that this is kind of your first little endeavor into retirement, if you will, I guess. But just want to commend you on the many, many years of service that you had as Sagebrush Inn, and I'm sure that the person that you sold the license to is going to keep up the long-standing tradition. Councilmember Peralta.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, Ken, I just wish you all the luck in your retirement, and I want to know if you've bought your fishing rod yet.
Fred, I'm not retired. I still have the quality yet.
Well, you got halftime to go fishing.
Half retired.
I got to tell you, though, I just want to commend you, and as this community knows, anytime that you all have food at your place, you see hands-on by the owners, and that's why you've been so successful all these years. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you. Okay. Next, we will go to back to the consent agenda. And we have 3 items in the consent agenda. I'll read the consent agenda. If there's any items that you want to take out, please let me know. Consideration and possible approval of grant agreement 13GAG-Taos SY14 with the New Mexico Department of Public Safety. Item B, consideration and possible approval of grant agreement with the New Mexico State Fire Marshal's Office. Item C, consideration and approval of amendment number 1 to Griffin and Associates contract, increasing the amount by $40,000 inclusive of GRT. Council members.
Move for approval.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion to approve and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we have numerous items here that are procedural items for Community Development Block Grant. I didn't place these on the consent agenda because when I go testify at the CDBG, they ask if we have meetings and if there was public participation during the resolutions and stuff like that. And of course, this isn't the public hearing part, but one of the commissioners asks if a lot of there was public attendance on a lot of these items. So just as a procedure, just wanted to make sure that we.
Mr. Mayor, I can see some public out there.
So we'll go to item A, consideration and possible approval of resolution 1363, approving the community development block grant procurement policy. Let's
So
split.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Item B, consideration and possible approval of resolution 1364, approving the citizen participation plan as part of the community development block process.
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Motion is there
Second.
and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Item C, consideration and possible approval of resolution 1365, approving the Fair Housing Act as part of the community development block grant process.
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Motion to approve. Second. And a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Those opposed, motion carries. Item D, consideration and possible approval of resolution 1366, approving the anti-displacement and relocation plan as part of the community development block grant process.
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second, and discussion.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Mr. Mayor, just a question, and maybe the Oscar, you might be able to answer this or get an answer for this question. Would this be the area that we would work with the county on rehabilitation of the county housing that was part of our Taos housing, which is now, when we talked with the developers about redoing the existing housing and renovating it, some of that housing is falling down and it needs to be redone.
No, sir. What this has to do, these are all procedural pieces that have to do with the recent grant award that we got for the paving of SDS Road.
I thought these were going forward that we had to do for the upcoming grant cycle.
I believe it would be for the upcoming.
The ones that's in place now.
No, it's going forward.
Oh, I'm
So-
sorry.
Okay, so this portion in here, this would, if we wanted to use the CDBG grant monies to rehabilitate public housing, this resolution would agree to do that if we so desired, correct?
Yes. because it does have, it's a displacement. It's if we move these people, if we do some kind of area improvement and we have to displace those people, we have to find an area for them to move into. That's what this one is for.
So in our discussions with the contractors that we had for housing with the Chamisa Verde subdivision and also with the Art Council people, that this would be an area that if we needed to, we could
Yes, sir.
use funds like this to help make the package work. So that just for information is the only reason I'm bringing it
Yeah,
up.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I guess, Fred, with regards to that, would that mean that it would be our contribution to housing and the county would still oversee? Or are we talking with regards to at some way getting the county out of the picture as well and allowing that to go to a developer? Or that's not within our purview?
What it amounts to is under the Affordable Housing Act that the council has approved, to move forward to that, in some cases what happens is that you can take existing public housing and renovate it and use CDBG monies to help do that as part of the total package of affordable housing within the community. And so since we turned over all of our housing to the county and made it one, we could use these funds in conjunction with that, with a developer to turn that housing from public to private. Okay. And as that part, we would meet our requirements for affordable housing within the community. So that's the reason so in other words, if $500,000 would be the key to making a 60 or 65 unit housing program work using existing property that is owned, in this case, by the county within the town limits, we could do that to make that thing happen and meet our goal for affordable housing, taking, say, 20 units and converting to 65.
Okay.
If I may just add a little bit to that, Councilman. In the meantime, HUD and the county and pretty much all of the counties in northern New Mexico have been working towards creating a northern New Mexico housing authority for the sake of saving on administrative costs and things like that, and by that means making things work. So as to your question about, how will the county be involved? Well, it seems that involvement is going to turn into a regional housing authority anyway.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to item E, consideration and possible approval of Resolution 1367, approving Section 3 plan as part of the Community Development Block Grant process.
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Item F, consideration and possible approval of Resolution 1368, calling for a regular municipal election on March 4th, 2014.
So moved.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to item G, financial update, presentation of monthly financial report for period ending October 31st.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, youth council member. You have your report in front of you. A few of the highlights is just our gross receipts tax for October's increased 1.14% over last fiscal year. The highest.
What was that?
1.14%. 1.14, and the highest distribution was in the food and medical costs of $12,820 increased over last fiscal year. The actual classifications was a decrease, so this food and medical made up the difference to have our 1.14%.
Does that mean we're eating and getting sick?
I guess, yes. It's sort of true in a way. The year-to-date growth rate is 5.39% over last fiscal year, and also we have a 2.58% higher than our anticipated budget. So we have two comparisons in this report, just so that we keep on track that we are comparing towards the budget and comparing as history of last year. So that's on the revenue side. The expenditures, Same situation, year-to-date is approximately 1.68% lower than anticipated budget at this time. So, as the months go on, some of these expenditures fluctuate from month to month depending on what's going on. So we just keep an eye on that on a monthly basis. One little cost savings is legal, still trying to hire their assistant town attorney, trying to get qualified applicants. I don't know what it's looking at right now, but currently have a $20,000 savings on just that position. So other than that, the expenditures are running well. The ending balance right now still healthy with 1.4 million. We've cut that down to 49 days instead of 50 days, based on the adjustment that we did do on the library card fees. We've anticipated that we're only going to hopefully the refund process is going to start soon with Shirley, and we're anticipating maybe half of those people will request a refund and half will not. So it's just dependent. So we calculated just receiving or keeping $6,000 of that 12 that we had received.
And that's because up until now we had received $12,000.
Right.
So we're thinking $6,000 is going to.
Right. So with that information, we'll just carry it with that and see how it works and see how the refunds go. Probably give you a status maybe end of January on that. So based on that, our reserve moved down a day. Capital projects, you can see there, biggest notable still central communication relocation costs.
If I may just make a little punctuation here. At the last meeting, the council had asked for us to come back with sort of a plan or impact, and that's it right there. We'll be putting that in greater detail, better numbers, et cetera, in mid-year, but really the only adjustment here then would be to the ending balance. Right,
that's correct. As I stated, capital projects, relocation costs still coming in, finalizing those invoices. We did do a $93,000 purchase for the roof replacement at the TCA, and more $83,000 to the airport design for the phase 1, and then partial payment so far, not 80%, but 68% completion. That was during October, obviously, for Old Tapo Cañon improvements, and we should be seeing that final payment here soon, within the next couple of weeks, I suspect. Other than that, everything else running. Debt service, we do make our first interest payments for all our finance authority loans, actually are in November, so those amounts are coming up of $62,000. It's just really interest at this time. And I did attach just a little summary on the lodger's tax. Just a little chart showing, collected versus food, accommodation and food services, because those sort of run together. And that's a chart on the last page that you can see there. And just how they do, run pretty consistently. You can see a big jump in that June on the accommodation and food services, and that was obviously the Mumford & Sons, where the food was actually more than lodger's tax, which probably meant, they came and went and ate, and probably the supply, the concession area people probably purchased more food here. Different scenarios, but you can see that was a bit skewed. So just a little bit of information on lodger's tax. And other than that, I stand for any questions.
Okay, Councilmember Peralta.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Marietta, if I could, I'd like to see a report on the amount of money that we have dedicated to debt service and what how much of the revenues that come in for that, and how much we actually are over what we are actually going to spend on debt payment.
So the revenue source.
So let's say, for
that's
example,
right.
you got half a cent coming in for capital improvements, and that goes to a bond of $5 million, and the payment is $250,000, but we bring in $300,000
Okay.
on that. So I just want to, we have a certain amount that we have to have in overage to meet the bond requirements, but I want to see if there's more than that coming in.
Okay.
If it's a 25% reserve that we have to have or not, or whatever it is? Just curious.
Right, yeah, it's usually 1.25, so it is a 25% over the excess of whatever is the revenue source. So I can run that for you and give you those calculations.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Councilmember Abeyta.
Thank you, Mayor Cordova. Mr. Manager and Marietta, I believe in the library, we had a position that was a part-time position, and it recently went to a temporary position, and it's vacant.
Yes.
And I believe we have the money for that position.
No.
Except we don't have the money for the insurance benefits.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a true statement. We do have just a temp position. I'm trying to think the percentage of hours. Do you know, Shirley?
It was 24 hours.
So 24 hours.
And Marietta, do we know how much money it would entail to cover the benefits part of that position? Per month, per quarter?
What happened is that as a result of the new Affordable Care Act, you can't bring on anybody temporary for more than 90 days before, then you have to pay all of the benefits, and that's sort of the change that took place. And so we can give you a cost estimate for that.
I'm going to say just on maybe a couple coverage, it's probably about $6,000 a year. But also, we don't have really said in our policy what percentage we are going to cover for those temp employees, because a full-time person, that's, there's a calculation for a full-time employee. A temp and a part-time, which is reversed. It seems like the part-time would have been the qualified for the medical, but it's the temporary. So, they're only temp hours. I don't know if we have a different calculation for that, but it'd probably be about $6,000 more a year.
That's all I'm looking for, just a general idea. When did the position go vacant? 2 months ago?
No, it went vacant, about
Probably
2-3 weeks ago?
2-3 weeks ago.
Just recently?
Just recently.
What's going to be the impact to the library with that position vacant?
We'll just have to make do with the current staff.
I think council, Mr. Manager, I think council had decided that we didn't want any cuts to the library. And even though I fully understand why this position has gone vacant, I think staff ought to go back and reevaluate if there's a way to find the 6,000, 7,000, whatever it is, and bring a proposal to council to consider refilling that position, because we want to take our library where it's at and move it forward, not continue to cut it every time if there's a shortage of money. And now that we rescinded the $10 library card, as that showed us in our ending days, we only went from 50 days to 49 days. I like having a healthy balance, of course, but the library is really important. And I think, Mr. Mayor and council members, that we ought to look at that one more time. I'm not saying let's do it, but let's evaluate it and see if we can do it.
Right. And
What that would require, because the library didn't get a cut this year, the only department that did not get a cut, what that would require is for us to increase their budget by, I guess, $6,000. And I guess maybe what we can do is in the mid-year adjustment, or when we have a better idea, I guess at that point, mid-exercise, so we can tell you where revenues are and expenditures are. And at that point, it could very well be that we recognize a higher revenue figure than the 1.8 that we're sticking with right now.
Because, Mr. Manager, you're saying that the library didn't get cut, but in essence, it did get cut. So,
well, costs went up, and
Yeah.
we don't have the resources for that.
I understand, but in essence, it got cut because now that position that was filled 3 weeks ago is now sitting there vacant, and that person's not there to help the library serve our constituents. So.
Well, we can fill it, but we're stuck again with the situation that whoever comes in can only stay for 3 months, at most 3 months, because then we have to pay for the benefits at that point. So we'll perpetuate
We're
that
sounding
situation.
like Walmart now, I mean, seriously, let's find a way to make it happen,
Right. And just if I can, we can look at it, and like you said, if that's the revenue source that is going to be committed to the library, right now we're covering it with the ending balance, but coming into next year, we have to start with, we're $120,000 short right off the bat. So we have to look and see what that revenue source is. If that's the priority of the council, when that's what it is, then it'll fund whatever the library needs. But, right now we're just working off the ending balance, and this is a reoccurring cost that we anticipated. So we can look at it mid-year, like Rosker said, and we'll review the revenues and then bring it back to council and look at that, that position in there and bring it back in.
Or let us bring back to you then the different proposals, because we have looked at what the impact to that would be and just how we would cover that time. And one of the things that that we want you to see as well is, just what the hours that were there, the staff that's there, and the use that comes to the library during those sorts of hours. I think at this point, what we have basically are some standard hours. We sort of expect, to keep those hours no matter whether or not people come there, and don't necessarily put them in other places where the bulk of the users come during the day.
And did you say standard hours, or did I hear you say substandard?
For us, standard hours. If you want to go international hours or whatever the big hours, we're talking keeping them open on Sunday. We're not recommending that.
Yeah, there may be some flex. They may, with Shirley's help, I think we can look at that. And there may be some adjustments that he's saying with times opening and that they still be efficient and effective.
For example, if we were to keep the same hours that the average library in New Mexico keeps, for example. I mean, not quite the big city hours of
And Mr.
Sundays.
Manager and Marietta and Shirley, the ultimate goal is to not cut service. We want to keep it where it's at, and if over time we can incrementally increase it just by a little bit, over time we can make a difference.
And I think, that's what I'm hearing from the council, is that we don't want to see cuts to the library, that we want to make sure that it's vibrant and it's running. And that's the reason why we wanted to reach out to the county to see, right now we hear that they may be spending over $2.some million just to simply duplicate services, but yet they can't spend a penny to support the library. But we need to, look at what's the immediate need and then look at the long-term needs. Oscar, I think there may be an opportunity for UNM-Taos collaboration with UNM-Taos now that they move down to our, Civic Plaza, and what are the opportunities there? So I think we should explore some of those opportunities with UNM-Taos, since they do have a library, and maybe we can join in with them to offer one single library and combine resources. We spend $1.2 million at our swimming pool, our youth and family center. We spend half of that for education in our library. So clearly, I think we need to balance some of our priorities and see exactly how we get this done.
Okay, definitely.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll look at it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is that it? I'm good?
Good. You're off the hot seat, Marietta. Just find us more money.
Okay.
Get more money.
That library again, Marietta.
I know, it's the holidays. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I guess I'm done. Thank you.
Good.
Don't take those reserves on Black Friday and take them.
Yeah,
Spend them.
unless you get a really good deal.
Yeah. Okay, next we will go to item H. Town manager will report on department monthly performance reports.
Mayor and Council, you just have there our monthly performance reports. Nothing outstanding that I could care to point out above anything else. Really, I'd be really interested in hearing your comments about what would make for a better report, what kinds of things we could put out there. But there's a couple of things I do I do have on the list to just point out to you in terms of what's happening out there in the departments. This afternoon, you got an email from me, or were copied on the email from me, notifying the county that we were terminating our memorandum of understanding with them for them to provide building inspection services. We're going to start. Today we started doing that in-house. By the rules of the state, we are given a grace period of 60 days to provide that with somebody who has an inspector's license. That person will be Julie Scanzi. She is a veteran contractor who also has her state inspection license, and actually has quite a bit of education in perhaps other areas, but in a very Taos fashion. She is a PhD in cultural anthropology, and is truly doing this because she wants to stay active and wants to be a part of the community. So we thank her for doing that. And so I invited the county manager and the assistant county manager to meet if they wanted to debrief on this, so they would understand how we felt about the service and why we're going a different direction at this point. And so I'll report to you should that meeting take place. The other thing too is you for those of you who read the Tricia Hernandez's column in the newspaper. There was a much announced meeting that we were going to have. We had that meeting. It was a very pleasant meeting. It was a very constructive meeting. We talked about a lot of different sorts of things. They weren't so much concerned about where the animal control officer was going to be, but rather what that animal control officer was going to do. They are of the strong opinion that animal control officers should also be a public education and outreach person, and should be very aggressive about enforcing the town's rules. They wish they would have a lot more input and would be able to give a lot more direction to that person. We discussed many different ways to achieve that. And one of the ways that we discussed, and at this point we're just exploring this, and I kind of want to just hear what you think about this, but and that is the idea that we would contract with Stray Hearts for them to be provide the animal control services. Other communities in the country do this. I don't know that anybody in New Mexico does this, but in the same fashion that Stray Hearts operates the animal shelter, some places also include with that the other services. Up until now, they were absolutely reticent to that idea. They're a lot more open to it, and there's a lot of work that has to take place here. To us, that means about $47,000 worth of services or cost that we right now put to a town employee plus fuel, et cetera, to keep this person on the road. And also, there's also a very important component here, and that is the whole public education, public outreach. I just think that the government is always in a very difficult, a very awkward position to be trying to change people's minds in a way that people would feel that we're somehow passing judgment on how they treat their animals and what's proper and what's not proper. And so I expressed to them that would always be a very hard thing for government to do, and that's something that the community is much better positioned to do. So that would be another reason why we would do it. So again, there's a lot of research here before I even ask our town attorney, who's already overworked, to even begin to research this. I just wanted to hear what you thought about that. I'd love to hear your comments at any time, email or phone call later on, so that I can maybe take that into account. And if it turns out that there's a basis on which to go forward here, then maybe in the near future I could come back to you with a proposal, if this goes anywhere, a proposal to amend the Stray Hearts contract by an amount to allow for them to provide this animal control and public education services, so that can be done to their satisfaction.
Mr. Mayor, Oscar, if you think that that's a feasible option for us to encounter, then I would definitely be in support of something like that, especially just because they have, the expertise on hand. It's something that, they have contacted me about with regards to having the individual who serves in that capacity as animal control carry more knowledge than, it just being a job or and so much plays into that, and I can definitely see that. So anything that we can do to make that work, I'd like to see that happen. So long as we don't, go way over on cost as well. Either.
Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor? Councilmember Baker?
Thank you. Mr. Manager, I also think that it's an excellent idea and it warrants further evaluation, so let's definitely look at it.
Okay. Either...
Just one other item. With the election coming up, we've been getting a lot of requests for information, which are okay. We're just trying to kind of get ahead of that. And one of the things that we're working with the town clerk to prepare is a packet of information, apart from just the normal rules of an election, just a packet of information that would be standard information that we already have that we anticipate that we'd be asked about. And so to put that all in a CD, for example, like previous audits, previous budgets, the work plans for the departments, performance reports, and so we're starting to put that together. So any ideas that you have about other information we should put in such a CD, I'd love to hear. Please let me know so that we can include all of that. All that, again, is anticipation of us being asked for that information anyway. We thought we'd just hand it to them, and that way we would go forward. One other thing, and this is something that happens in other communities. I understand it's not a tradition here. I just want to see what you guys thought about that, and that is that what happens in other communities as well is that they organize a sort of a little forum for, and after all of the candidates have announced or are known, that there's a little forum so that they can get then just an opportunity to talk directly to the management staff, et cetera, to ask questions, to kind of get all those questions out of the way all at the same time. And a couple of other things that the communities do, which is that when people ask questions, that we just post them in one place, and that way anybody who has those questions can just refer to those to that place on the website. Because again, you want to provide as much information as possible and be as accessible as possible, but do it in a structured fashion such that everybody sort of feels that they got the same access to the same information. Wondering what you guys thought about that.
Comments, questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Abita.
It's a good idea, Oscar, but we got to be careful that we don't give the incumbents an unfair advantage over the new competitors. So let's be careful. We don't want a new challenger to say, or the incumbents had an unfair advantage because they established a web page and they generically answered questions. I think each one of us as candidates needs to hit the road and educate the people, bring them up to speed. But I would be leery.
I believe this is available to everyone, though, right?
Yeah, the idea is that everybody gets it. So just one CD, everybody gets it. People ask questions, we put it online so that everybody gets it. And there'll be sort of one opportunity for everybody to be invited to. Then here you have 2 hours with the department heads. Ask any questions you have, as opposed to them showing up in tranches of 12 and 30 requests for the same information over and over that the town clerk has to provide. So the idea here is just to be as transparent and facilitate that information that in all likelihood will be asked for anyway.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Anything else, Oscar?
No, sir. That's.
Mayor, I have
Councilmember Peralta.
I have a question. How long ago was it, Rudy? About a month ago that you asked for the tennis courts at Kit Carson Park to be transformed to a dog park?
It's probably been 2 or 3 meetings, probably about a month.
Okay. Just a question for you is, where is that transformation? Has it taken place, or where are we with it?
No, sir. That's an issue we took to the Parks and Rec Board to help them just to get their input on this. And the reason is because individually we had been hearing from the Parks and Rec Board that they had reservations about that. Apparently, this is an issue that's been around, and so we just wanted to share that with them at this point. As you know, right next to that park, totally surrounding the tennis courts, there are signs that say "No dogs" because of the kids the small kids playgrounds. And so those are just the things that we're trying to work through to see how such a thing would be planned out. What I'd like to do is then come back to you with a plan about how that could be done, how that would be done.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I think, though, that we're kind of in a situation where we need to have this move along fairly quickly, because the area you're talking about that people aren't supposed to have dogs, they have dogs. Mm-hmm. And so if we don't get them corralled in some way, they're going to be doing their thing out there, and we're not protecting the kids. So I think that Council Members Abeta's concern and request, I think, needs to be moved ahead, because I don't think that we can wait on this. We used to have a dog run in the back behind the baseball diamonds to the south, mm-hmm. and that was done away with some years ago. But we need to do something, or we're going to have some real issues in that park. Yeah. And I think this is what we're trying to solve by converting that space, because it can't be used as a tennis court, because it's just too rough. We can't even use it as a basketball court. It's too rough.
It's just that we have a few different options to go with that. For example, to convert it immediately, I mean, you could do everything from just put a bunch of gravel on there and then modify the fences. we could also remove the asphalt and put a lot softer ground there. But the idea that we could just sort of restrict that then with asphalt to the dogs, that's a plan I wouldn't recommend at all. I don't think anyone would be satisfied, either the dog owners or anybody that's right. So we're just trying to work through that.
I understand, but I just feel like we just need a report back and a plan of action to be taken with some sort of a timetable.
We will bring that back to you at the next regular meeting on the 10th.
Thank you.
Are you saying the asphalt is no longer usable for any purpose?
Not for a tennis surface,
Then
no.
it's
I mean,
Not even
If
basketball.
it's okay for the council,
Somebody could trip, break a leg, or break an ankle out there.
what I'm hearing from the council, correct me if I'm wrong, but let's remove the asphalt, let's make it a dog park.
And I think it's extremely warranted, Oscar, because the issue that I have with it, having small children, is that I know when my son was playing t-ball, it was always a landmine.
oh yeah.
Because of the t-ball. So if they're not enclosed, I think we create bigger issues now, and because it isn't a part of the park that's more hidden towards the back, that it's more accessible to the illegal use.
I'll bring a plan back to you on the 10th. There's just a lot of options. Yeah, I mean, to remove the asphalt, as you can imagine, would be a major effort to deal with that, and the fences, et cetera. But also to just put gravel down there and expect that somehow would be acceptable to dog owners is that wouldn't be reasonable. I don't think people would be reasonable. As well as we would have to modify the. I mean, there's more to it than sort of put up a sign and let the dogs go.
Removing the asphalt, I don't believe that removing the asphalt is going to be that major.
But the complication is the fence.
If it's froze, yeah, but.
But I think the thing I look at with regards to that too is that we're coming into an extremely slow season, where I think our own staff could tackle that. We should have the equipment to be able to knock. I mean, especially as loose as it is, it would come up pretty easy.
I'll bring that plan back to you along with the price tag on the 10th.
Okay. All right. Yeah, but I think by the 10th, I think it should be already moving along. If we can get something kind of moving along in that direction, it looks like the council is willing to do whatever it takes to get it there. So whatever pre-planning needs to be done, that way on the 10th, we hit the ground running.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else under that section? We will go now to item 10A, since we already did item A under the public hearings.
Perfect time.
I understand, I saw Commissioner Romero at a funeral this morning, and he told me not to expect anything, given that that their meeting was happening late. So, Councilmember Peralta, I heard that you attended the meeting. How did that go?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, before I give my report, I'd like to ask Abigail, who just came back from that meeting, was there anything special happened during the budget process?
Welcome to our meeting.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner, they asked me several questions, so I'm used to addressing as commissioners now. Councilmember Peralta, I guess just a little more of confusion. Their finance director did report that they're essentially going to lose 12% of their general fund due to their PILT taxes being held by the federal government that wasn't approved during their budget approval. So they now have to cut 12% from their general fund. So now they're thinking about where that money is going to come from. Commissioner Blankenhorn took that as an opportunity to stress the importance of collaborating with the town and creating a joint East 911 center versus going our separate ways. Commissioner Romero seemed to be the commissioner that was more reluctant to going in that direction. He asked several staff members, including the finance director and the deputy manager, what their opinion was, and both of those gentlemen stated that it would be in the best interest of the constituents if we did collaborate and work together in creating a joint 911 center. So
the staff did say that?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to see that.
Right. Yeah, that was refreshing. The attorney did point out that by December 24th, if we do not have a JPA in place, that the Taos County then has 15 days to decide whether they want to take over as fiscal agent of the 911 operations. And Commissioner Romero seemed to think that that would be the direction that he would be willing to support. So they asked staff to come back with dates shortly after the December 24th deadline to let them, give them an opportunity to make a final decision. And that was directed by Commissioner Romero.
I just want to,
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, if I could, make a final decision in what regard?
Either working with us on a JPA or taking over as fiscal agent.
Per the MOU.
Per the MOU. Because they also posed the question as if we even had to have a JPA in place in order for them to take over the 911 center. And I believe their legal opinion that their attorney rendered was that no, that they didn't have to.
Well, regardless of that.
before we go to that, one of the things that I just want to stress is that any MOU, it's just that, it's a memorandum of understanding. Them taking over as fiscal agent would take DFA approval. DFA is not going to approve any modification to this JPA in its current form, period. They've made that very, very clear. So I think somebody needs to advise them about, we don't have a choice but to enter into a new JPA. That's our choice. We have to enter into a new JPA. An MOU, this MOU was flawed since day one, and it's simply that, a memorandum of understanding to enter into a JPA. Now, it does have provisions if we don't, but the if we don'ts require modifications to the current JPA in its current form, and that will never fly through DFA. So,
Right.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Gonzalez.
I have a lot to say about this issue, especially after attending the incident command that I was just at in Orlando, Florida with the Department of Homeland Security, which I would send the open challenge out there for all these commissioners to get off their keister and attend some type of informative training that would help them out. And I say this with regards to, I put the question out there with regards to our situation, how we operate, and we were pretty much laughed at by the Department of Homeland Security. And I say this because they couldn't stress enough how important incident command and regionalized E911 communications were. And they said, you guys can meddle now. Have your little fight now. But pray that there's not an incident within your community, because you will not know which direction you are going. So I feel that all these decisions that the commission is making are based on completely false statements, especially after this training. And I would be happy, because now after the certification that I just got, it's a 2-course certification. I went once in November 2012, and my last one was this last time. So now I have the certification to prep and preach, I guess you could say to them. I would be happy to sit down with every single one of them in front of the public and issue the statements out there that are made by the Department of Homeland Security with regards to incident command. And so much of this, Mr. Mayor, revolves around the fact that even themselves, the Department of Homeland Security says the biggest detriment in a time of crisis are politicians. And that's because promises are made that promises can't be kept. And this is what I've asked for all along, is for commissioners and council members alike to get the hell out of the way and allow the people that do this job to do it. We're not talking about a building anymore. We're talking about the health, safety, and welfare of this community. The other thing that was noted was why they asked why we were fighting over a building where other communities don't even have the luxury to operate besides out of a police department, which we've seen where that's gone, or out of rented facilities. When we have an approved Department of Homeland Security by their statutes, what this means. Now, every region, I know it's been criticized, we don't have bomb-proof glass. Now, Department of Homeland Security looks at this with regards to every single region. Are you in a hurricane area? Are you in wetland? What type of situation presents where you sit? So I would ask the commission, including Commissioner Romero, who seems to be the one that has been the most against this, dug his heels in the ground for God knows what reason, to sit down with me. And I don't care if we do it in front of the public. I would more welcome that, because I dare him to still say no after every single one of those factual reports has been laid out there with regards to what needs to be done. I want to move past this building, Mr. Mayor. I completely understand that this JPA needs to take place. I would urge the citizens of this community to start holding us accountable for their safety. Because if they're not, it doesn't seem like they're going to take the proactive approach to it. Get off the damn building already and start looking out for your people.
Thank you. Councilmember Peralta.
If I could, there's two things. Councilmember Gonzalez, there is a meeting the county invited us to
December
on
10th.
December 10th, in which they're going to have their software leaseor give a presentation to the county. I would think that that would be an opportunity for you to make your statements known and your position, because I think you can probably get that software individual to stand behind you as well, because I think that's what he's going to be talking about. And I think that with the information that you have, it may help to change Commissioner Romero's position. Now, if I could, Mr. Mayor, give you a report on what took place at the County Commission meeting. The County Commission asked some questions about the JPA, and first of all, they asked them of their attorney. And the 4 points that we went over and discussed are the 4 points that he said were they had some issues with as far as language and their position on them. So we're still talking. Everything else in the JPA is agreed to. Those are the sticking points. And I said to them is that,
What are the sticking points?
well, the sticking points are whether or not we have a weighted board, the determination as to what the budget's going to be, the 90 days of move or not move language, and the determination of how we're going to decide the entity's amount of money that they put into in the future after the first 2 years. So I asked them, I said, you know, where we're at on this thing is that we need to have from the commission in black and white exactly what they want. The language that they want, that they don't like, that we have in ours. We want to see it in black and white. And I also told them that it has to come from the commission and not from staff. Because one of the things that Mr. Malone said, well, I can get together with the town attorney and we can try to work this out. And I said, no, I need to have you tell me specifically what language you want, not try to come up with something. Tell us exactly what you want to have in black and white so that the council can look at that and either accept it or give a modification back to them about it. Commissioner Blankenhorn made a motion to direct staff to do that. Commissioner Baroni seconded it, and it failed 2-3. And the decision by the commission was not to do anything at this point. And Commissioner Romero said he was just too tired and he didn't have an opportunity or feel that he could give an educated position, I guess is the best way to put it, at this particular point. So he kind of said, well, we'll wait and see. I guess at this point it's going to be a wait and see situation, but hopefully maybe through some sidebar discussions, we can get them to bring it back up for a discussion, or at least some direction to their staff to create some language for them to consider to pass on to us so that we can move this thing forward. Their next commission meeting would be what, next week? I believe, second week.
They mentioned a meeting on the 6th.
It's usually a week before ours, so it's probably next Tuesday. Because ours falls.
So maybe there will be, after the discussions that happened after we left, maybe that'll enlighten them to get back to staff and ask them to look at some language. But that's where it was left, which I'm sorry to say was not exactly what I expected, but I had an inclination that that's what was going to happen with discussions that I had been having with the county commissioners. I'll answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any comments, questions? I have a, it's just frustrating, and I'm glad that we have put 2 JPAs that are doable. They modeled the San Juan version that is the model JPA of the state of New Mexico, that clearly gets the politics out, that clearly puts all decision-making, it's an authority, it gets it into a neutral board that makes precise decisions, educated decisions about this. We put 2 versions out there. They're not happy with that. Instead, they're more concerned of 40 questions at that meeting instead of entering into a JPA. 40 questions, and which in my mind are questions that are fishing to find something wrong with the facility. Anything from, is the sound deadening material used, is that fire retardant, is it not? Currently, right now, I think it's disingenuous for the county the way their stance has been on 911. We approved an agenda, a budget of $371,000. We submitted it to them. We have email correspondence where they said, yes, that's the amount we're going to approve, as we do every year. Every year we have not increased the budget. This year we realized the need for an executive director. It was agreed by all the stakeholders. This is the budget. The manager, the chairman told me this is whatever was approved, that's the amount that was told. Instead, they've chosen to unilaterally pull back and say, no, Town of Taos, you're paying the $371,000. We're paying what we've paid 13 years ago, which is $286,000. That's what. So right now, while this county, we're providing emergency services for 35,000 people, the Town of Taos is paying the majority of that. Our constituents are paying the majority of that bill. What do they want? They want a weighted vote, which is going to get us precisely back to where we're at now. A JPA that one entity controls. They don't want a weighted voting that has neutral people, if you will, on that board. They want employees. Of course the employee is going to side with the politics, is going to creep its head right into that JPA all the time. And we're not making this up. This is what we get from DFA. If you want a true JPA that works, model the San Juan, and that's precisely what the MOU says, that we should follow the model when it comes to the voting. When it comes to anything, the MOU mentions nothing about voting. We followed the San Juan model. Not only did we follow it, we kind of made it more congruent to what they want. They still don't want that. And Councilmember Peralta, I can appreciate where you ask them, well, tell us what you want. Give us something to consider. And they still fail to even give us that. I mean, for a commissioner to make a motion to direct staff to give us a document that the county is 100% good with, that addresses all the concern, and it still fails, where are they at? I mean, what is it that they want to do? I just think that it's unfortunate. I think they're not taking this serious. It's all about politics. It's all about if that building did not have the name Kit Carson on it, we would not be having this discussion. It's common sense. Right now they're looking at a $371,000 to $400,000 budget a year. If they go on their own, they will lose state funding of $200,000 to $300,000 a year, plus it'll cost them an annual recurring budget of over $1.2 million. That is what their own manager has told them. It'll then cost us, it'll cost the Town of Taos now to over $750,000, $800,000 to run our own dispatch. Common sense says collaborate, don't duplicate services. Now your budgets will be cut to $371,000, $400,000. That's notwithstanding the fact that they're going to have to spend over $2.5 million in a new facility. I don't get the rationale behind it, and I'm glad that we're no longer meeting with them, because every time we meet, our attorney met with them, there was something else thrown. There was another condition outside of the MOU. The 24th is going to come and pass, and we'll continue providing the best service that we can to all of Taos County, despite what the commissioners want to do. So thank you, Councilmember Peralta, for attending the meeting and giving us that report. Like I say, I can appreciate your willingness to get something back. Unfortunately, commissioners aren't willing to do that. Any other comments, questions?
Just one last comment, and that is we just have to sit and wait and see if the county will respond, hopefully, soon.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I guess the one other comment I can ask of this community is to please show up to that December 10th meeting, because it's there that you can voice your opinions, your concerns, and maybe tell all of us to grow up a little bit.
Well, and you know, where you hear these innuendos, when I presented the JPAs, there was discussion of how come we're having outages in communications, and you know, it's really unfortunate that those are the talks. You know, they're talking to suppliers that, of course, if they're in a position to sell a product to someone for over $1 million, $2 million, of course they're going to try to sell that product. They get a commission. That's what's going to happen. And we have embraced that because there is some latest and greatest technology that we want to get there. Of course, in our old facility, there was no way we could ever have expanded to that point. So now we have the facility, and it would be great if we would collaborate and they could spend $300,000, $400,000 in upgrading all the equipment. That would still save us our annual budget. We would get $200,000, $300,000 a year from the state, and everybody would be whole. But unfortunately, it's that syndrome where one neighbor's mad at the other neighbor, and I'm going to burn that neighbor's house down, but I might burn mine while I'm at it. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing here. So,
Mr. Mayor, with regards to you saying the latest and greatest technology, which they claim they're on the verge of bringing into themselves, I would say, what good is that technology if you can't talk to the other agency?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, that's so much for that. We hope that the county commission looks at common sense, looks at it with a common sense approach, and realizes that we don't have a choice but to enter into a joint powers agreement. There's just no choice at all. And our plea to the state is going to be that they don't cut our funding, because we followed through with exactly what the state supported. They supported this through a grant to design this very building. The federal government supported it with a grant to build this very building. So we feel that we shouldn't be penalized, and that's the fight we're taking to Santa Fe as well. And I've already begun talks with the governor's office on that.
Mr. Mayor, one last final statement in that. In my talks with the Department of Homeland Security trainers with regards to this issue, they are willing to come to Taos and speak to the importance of what collaboration means, because they've seen it all. I mean, you have one guy that's a veteran of 30 years in incident and emergency management response, and another gentleman that has 35 years in incident and emergency management response. These guys have both been extremely high-ranking within Department of Homeland Security, even under the President's initiatives. So I will gladly reach out to them and take them up on that offer, because if they don't believe us, maybe they'll believe them.
Are you proposing yet another study?
No more studies, just the facts.
Thank you, and congratulations, Councilmember Gonzalez, in completing that course. I think it's going to prove very valuable to this council, making these kind of decisions.
It was my pleasure, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy your time with your families. And
I also just want to report for the listening audience, this council has always been very pro-business, and because of that, I'm always confident when I make my pleadings at hearings supporting businesses, knowing that I do have the support of the council. The Martyrs House was granted approval by the Alcohol and Gaming Division, where they had denied them before, to serve alcohol in their expanded separate building. Alcohol and gaming, by their strict definition, require them to have a portal or some kind of connection of the two buildings. Our historic district was not going to allow that type of modification to those historic buildings. They appealed it to a public hearing, appealed the decision of the director, the staff, and I testified at that hearing, and today they issued the final order from the Alcohol and Gaming approving that. So it's great for them.
Mr. Mayor, one last thing. I want to say congratulations to the Tigers and our youth council member, Landgraf, because they are playing this Saturday, 1 p.m. Against Robertson in the state semifinals.
Here in Taos.
Here in Taos.
Yep, here in Taos. Congratulations.
So congratulations to all of them.
Yeah, that's great. So this is this Saturday, correct?
It's this Saturday.
Okay, great.
And at 1 o'clock.
Congratulations. We look forward to you guys being the state champions.
Additionally, I'd like to just recognize girls soccer, which were district champions this year. Boys soccer, which were district runner-ups. And I think that we should have some sort of recognition for the cross-country team, who took state in both boys and girls this year. So something that we could possibly do at a council meeting.
Councilmember Abeta, Youth Councilmember Landgraf, Councilmember Abeta did a recognition.
Todd Gravel, as one of the parents of one of the runners, did organize a run-along from Kit Carson Park to Taos Plaza last Thursday.
That's great.
We ran along with all the athletes, both boys and girls, parents and other supporters, and we individually presented plaques to each runner at the gazebo. The coaches were present. Mr. Mayor, if you found it fit, if you wanted to have a more formal ceremony in council chambers, we could definitely do that. But no, we did not forget about our boys and girls state champions cross country.
Okay. Youth Councilmember, if you want to spearhead that and just arrange with our staff to get it on the agenda.
Sure.
And arrange with the coaches.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Will. If there's nothing else.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
And
Thanksgiving to everyone, and enjoy your families and your time off.
eat, but don't go to the hospital.
Motion, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Mayor. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Good night.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you.